All right, we're going to do the video first. So there's a short video to watch. I happen to like it.
I would have to say the teachers.
The teachers are devoted to helping you in your personal needs and in your school needs.
When I need help, I get help.
They're just completely devoted to you and how to bring Jesus Christ closer to you.
The atmosphere, probably, that we get to pray together. We all kind of get to build each other up every day.
CCA is unique in a lot of ways. We are focused on providing an affordable private education in a low-income community. We are focused on providing academic excellence at every level of academics. And we are focused on Jesus Christ, obviously, at the center of everything we do. And we want every student to have a chance to be successful, not just in academics, but in life as a Christian adult.
Learning about Jesus.
That we get to talk about Jesus and we get to have Bible class and do things like that freely.
Learning about Jesus in chapel.
How much the teachers, how much they're devoted to you and how much they show mercy to you when you mess up or if you don't do something right.
Being able to see my best friends every day.
And I like to play on the playground with my friends.
That I have so many friends and it's better for me here and I don't get bullied.
I have a lot of friends.
You become friends with everybody, so yeah.
My favorite thing about CCA is a multifaceted answer. I love that we can pray as a staff, we can pray with our students, we can use Jesus in every second of our day. But my absolute favorite thing to do is to go outside and just listen to kids laugh and play and run.
Having just Christian adults and kids around you all day long during the school year.
Just being around Christians every day, it kind of keeps you in that mindset of wanting to learn more about Christ and be more like Him.
Our teacher taught her read us a Bible story.
I don't know, it helps me stay constant with Jesus, not never forgetting that He's there.
Building up my faith and shield against sin helps out a lot. In the morning we have prayer requests.
We have to take turns about praying about Jesus.
Sometimes, when I'm taking tests, I'll maybe close my eyes and pray or just talk to God by myself.
When sometimes I'm being bad, I'll pray to Jesus.
If it's too personal, it'll be a personal prayer request and just know that that person needs something that they need to have God help them with.
Well, a couple months ago, my mom was sick, and so at lunch we all got together, a big group of us, and we all just prayed for her. That was pretty awesome.
Calvary Christian Academy's goals are to serve more families, to show more kids the love of Jesus Christ, and to grow His love and His light in this community. So CCA's greatest needs right now are we need to provide an extra classroom for our school. We're already over full, so that would be renting a modular. We need to be able to raise funds to provide general scholarships to a lot of needy families that want a Christian education. We would like to be able to provide a more adequate compensation for our staff who works for very little. And of course, we always need daily needs with office supplies and classroom supplies. CCA is looking for your financial help so we can provide a high-quality education solution for everybody in our community. And we simply don't charge enough tuition to do that without your help. So I'm down there already crying. So we're going to talk about CCA first, and there's not a whole lot to add to that video. It's pretty complete. Know that I was raised that you never ask for money. I was raised you work, you keep what you earn, and you earn what you keep. Don't ask for money, never ask for help. So when you see me doing that, know that inside I am like totally mad that I'm doing that, because the Lord has humbled me. This ministry, I've had to take things from people that I would never dream of having to do. But I guess God decided Jason was a little too prideful. So here's one way he was going to humble me. I'm still too prideful, but so I'm not really. Our church already gives a ton to the school. A ton of money, a ton of energy, a ton of volunteers. And I do want you to know that my serious, and I know everybody says this, but I really, just pray for us. Every chance you get, every time you think about us, just pray for our staff to be encouraged. Pray for our students to know the Lord. Pray for what that video just said. Can you tell what we talk about at school all day long? Or who we talk about all day long? So, Jesus is why we're here. Oh, I'm supposed to read the school verse. And this wasn't the school verse when I started, but the Lord has eventually made it. And it's important because you guys are part of it. For we are God's fellow workers, all of us. You are God's field, you are God's building. According to the grace of God, which was given to me as a wise master builder, that's Paul, not me. As a wise master builder, I have laid the foundation, and another builds on it, but let each one take heed how he builds on it. For no other foundation can be laid than the one which is already laid, which is Jesus Christ. And those kids were not prompted on any of their answers, and I think that their answers verify the truth that CCA is building on the foundation of who? Jesus, right? Poor Jeremiah, when he was doing that interview, he's asking me questions, and all my answers are the same. Jesus. Jesus. So, thank you, Jesus. All right, now to the equation. And the question is why does it seem like some people have better lives than others? Why do some people seem to be blessed, and why do some people seem to never have any good luck? Why do some people seem to have all the bad luck? You know, country music wouldn't exist without the question of why are some people blessed and some aren't. And the answer that humanity has come up with is very common and very popular. There's worldwide ministries based on the answer that the world has come up with, that mankind has come up with. And the answer that we have come up for this question of who gets blessed is the first slide. If you live good and you do good, you're going to be blessed. That's the one side of the equation. And then the other side of the equation is there's no need for revenge. Just sit back and wait. Those who hurt you will eventually screw up themselves, and if you're lucky, God will let you watch. Sound familiar? That equation? Everybody heard that before? So if you do good, you'll be blessed. If you don't do good, you won't be blessed. And I guess since we're Christians and we believe in this book called the Bible, we should look and see what it has to say. And is this true? Is karma true? And the first psalm provides the answer, or at least it defines the question for us. If you'll turn there with me, Psalm 1. And it's a familiar psalm. We've read it many times. Psalm 1, verse 1 through 4. Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. He will be like a tree firmly planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and its leaf does not wither. In whatever he does, he prospers. The wicked are not so, but they are like the chaff which the wind drives away. So, at first blush, that's our equation, isn't it? It's right there in the psalm. Do good, you're going to be blessed. You're going to be prosper in everything you do. And if you don't do good, you're going to be like the chaff which the wind blows away. And chaff, for those of you that have never worked with grain, is the light, it's the trash off of the grain. It's the husk and things like that. And back in Jesus' day, they would take a threshing fork, I think that's what they called it, and they would scoop up the grain, and on a windy day, they would throw it up in the air, and the wind would blow the chaff away, and the grain would drop back down onto the floor. So that's what he's referring to. I guess in the psalmist's day, I shouldn't say Jesus' day. And in this psalm, he contrasts the wicked and the righteous. And the righteous person doesn't get their advice from Oprah. The righteous person doesn't go to the current pop psychology or the horoscope, these things that are maybe good in some people's eyes, but certainly aren't from the Lord. And the righteous person doesn't do those things. On the flip side, the wicked person does. And as we all know, I know a lot of wicked people that are really good people. You know, they pay their taxes, they go to work. But outside of Christ is wicked, right? And the righteous are those of us that are in Christ. And we're still wicked. Does that make sense? So the wicked person looks like the world. They want to look like the world. They want to do what the world says. They want to look out for number one. And the righteous person doesn't. The righteous person wants to focus on the law of the Lord and delight in the law of the Lord. And Jesus summed up the law for us very well. You know, he said, this is the law. Love the Lord God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. And love your neighbor as yourself. And I like to remind everybody of not my definition, a good working definition of love. We struggle with the word love because in America it means a lot of different things. But I think a good way when we hear Jesus talk about love is he's saying set yourself aside for something. So when we love God, we have a desire in us to do the wrong thing sometimes, right? Am I the only one? And when we love God, we say, no, I'm going to set that desire aside for what God says is right. And when we love our neighbor, we say, I'm going to set my desire to go home and take a nap, or go home and play video games, or go home and do my thing. I'm going to set that aside because my neighbor needs something. And who's our neighbor? Everybody, right? So when we read those things, that's what a righteous person is seeking for. How do I love the Lord and how do I love my neighbor? And I don't know about you, but I want to learn how to delight in that day and night. Some days I'm pretty good, but some days I don't delight in that. Some days I'm like, oh, I got to go do this. So the righteous man delights in God's law, or at least is trying to learn how to, and the wicked person shuns it. The righteous man delights in loving the Lord, and the person that's not righteous, the person of the world, delights in loving themselves. And in a general sense, the equation works. Right? If you do good, if you're honest, if you work hard, if you don't rip people off, you're going to have a blessed life in a lot of ways. And on the flip side, if you don't work hard and you're not honest and you're not fair with your neighbors, you're going to be cursed. But when we get to specifics, I have questions. When we get to individual lives, I have questions about the equation. I have a friend I went in the Marine Corps with, and different units, different jobs, and he was in infantry, and we were in Operation Desert Storm, and he had to go into Kuwait. And what had happened, for those of you that are young, Iraq had invaded Kuwait, and America and the United Nations had sent in forces to drive Iraq out of Kuwait. And when you're doing urban warfare, everything's fast. You turn a corner and you have to make a decision. And my friend turned a corner, saw a Palestinian-looking guy with an AK-47, and he shot him. And shot him dead. And then a little boy came around the corner and said, why did you shoot my dad? The guy was a Kuwaiti. What did that little boy do that was so bad? My friend, he said, if God's real, he's cruel. How can you let me do that? I know a gal who 30 years ago decided to become a lesbian, and she left faith, she left family, she trained her kids to be atheists. She had a great job, retired early. I think her biggest health problem has been gout. And she devoted her life to being against God. In 1981, my mom and dad, but my mom started Emmett Valley Christian School. And for 27 years, I watched that woman come home and work and grade papers every night. She'd come home and watch Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy, and as soon as they got satellite TV, Game Show Channel, all night long, grading papers for 27 years. She worked for less than poverty wages for 27 years. I saw their tax return one time when I was in high school, and I had learned enough about how the poverty numbers were and stuff that I said, wow, you guys are working for nothing. And she's, no, we're working for everything. She gave 27 years of her life teaching kids about the Lord. And we watched cancer eat her alive. We watched this vital, loud, oh so loud, woman die as a grotesque caricature of a human being. Why? 27 years not enough? Why is this atheist woman devoted to being against God still alive and healthy as she can be? And my mom is gone. The psalmist is wrong. The equation is a joke. It's a lie. The Bible has to be wrong. If God exists, he's cruel and he's laughing at us. That equation doesn't work. If that equation is true, I will not worship the God of this Bible. But it's not true. Jesus tells us the equation in Matthew chapter 5. Jesus gives us a new equation. Matthew 5, verse 2. He opened his mouth. I'm sorry, I have to do a little segue here. I love that phrase because this is total. I cannot wait to see Jesus with our resurrected eyes open his mouth and see us, talk to us, teach us. Cannot wait to sit at his feet. Imagine how blessed these people, they didn't know how blessed they were, did they? To see him open his mouth. And he taught them, and he said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the gentle, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons and daughters of God. Blessed are those who have been persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are you when people insult you and persecute you and falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward in heaven is great. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." And I'm not sure about this, but I can guess that Jesus had Psalm 1 in his brain when he was doing this. Because for thousands of years, that had been the equation. That if you were blessed by God, well, you were healthy and wealthy. And if you weren't healthy and wealthy, then you weren't blessed by God. And that was the equation. We still deal with it all the time today, don't we? There's still millions of people around the world that have made God into some kind of a cosmic vending machine that if you put in your prayer tokens and your faith quarters, you're going to get the soda pop that you want. That's not our God. Jesus says, "Blessed are you if you look like him." That's Jesus. So the equation isn't based on how we appear. The equation is based on how much we trust Jesus Christ. Oh, man. And don't forget what righteous means. Righteous is a legal term, and it means that when we're righteous, we are in right standing with God. And it's completely morally perfect, which is all of us. Once you trust Jesus, somehow. I don't get it. It's a miracle of the Lord. And we all know there's only one righteous person, which is Jesus. And if we trust in him, then we share in that righteousness. So we share in his innocence. But in this place, where we have darkness, and we have doubt, and we have hurt, and we have spouses that leave, and we have health that fails, and we have children that leave the faith, sometimes we don't feel like we're blessed, do we? Sometimes we wonder where the Lord is in all of our hurt. Sometimes we have to read the rest of Psalm 1. So let's go back there to Psalm 1 and let's finish that together. Psalm 1, "Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in this law he meditates day and night. He will be like a tree firmly planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and its leaf does not wither. In whatever he does, he prospers. The wicked are not so. They are like the chaff which the wind drives away. Therefore, the wicked will not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord knows the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked will perish. And Jesus and the psalmist are giving us the answer. And I know you've heard this all morning long from the video till now. The answer is Jesus Christ. Trust Jesus Christ. If you want to be blessed, if you want everything you do to prosper, trust Jesus Christ. When the storms come, when the crops fail, when the people in your life that you love and you've given your life to fail you, when money doesn't happen, when the diagnosis isn't good, trust Jesus Christ. When Mom was dying, I was, fortunately, I was in Job class at the same time. And Job is a book that deals with a lot of this equation of the Lord. All of Job's friends said, Job, you must have sinned big time to have all this trouble. And this equation of do good, be blessed, do bad, be cursed is dealt with in Job. And I wrote this paper. And I read it to my mom in her, she wasn't in bed, in her death chair. Which I'm laughing because she sat in that chair and watched Game Show Channel for 24 hours for two weeks straight. And I want to share her answer with you. So this paper is called Our Last Hope. It was our last hope. Our family was all there. My dad, my brother and his family, my sister, her husband and children, and me with my wife and the twins. We were all there. At a time in our lives when getting together for birthdays and Christmas was impossible, we found a way to be there. My brother had come from Oregon. My brother-in-law had canceled any concerts. Even my mother-in-law was there. We had to be there. We knew as we sat there in the waiting room at St. Luke's Hospital that we had to be together. You see, it was our last hope. Up until there, 2 years earlier, the doctors had found a cancerous tumor in my mom's left breast. After enduring the surgery to remove the tumor and the accompanying lymph nodes, the radiation, and a year of chemotherapy, my mom had been declared in remission. After bearing the constant stress of the weights, which any of you that have been through medical procedures know what that's like, waiting for the results from the doctor's offices, after enduring painful surgery recovery where she could not lift her arm for weeks, after suffering through second-degree burns for radiation, after undergoing the humiliation, stress, and sickness from over a year's worth of chemotherapy, and after dealing with the daily fear of death by cancer for over a year, my mom was finally in remission. The battle was over. We had won. Hope had won. And then one day, my mom had a pain in her stomach. She and Dad went to the hospital only to be told, it's just your gallbladder, go home. Aspirin and Tylenol were not dulling the pain, and Mom knew that something more than her gallbladder was wrong. After being treated like a number for hours, they finally found someone at the Cancer Treatment Center to give her an ultrasound. Unfortunately, there was no one there who knew how to read the ultrasound, and the next round of the waits began. Oh, how I wish they could have lasted, but they did not. The ultrasound revealed that Mom had a tumor on her pancreas. Hope dwindled. The CAT scan revealed the tumor as cancerous. Hope was buried in the ashes of grief and fear. After some more waiting, the surgeon said there was a chance they could remove the tumor if it had not spread. Hope rekindled. There's a procedure that they use to deal with cancer on the pancreas, and it's called a Whipple.
Alan Whipple perfected this procedure as a last-ditch effort to remove a cancerous tumor from the pancreas. The procedure removes a large portion of the stomach and the bile duct, the lymph nodes in the area, the entire gallbladder, and the head of the pancreas in an attempt to remove the tumor from the patient's body. The procedure takes 5 hours. The success rate is about 17%. The surgery is not minor. We were still hopeful. We hoped that the tumor would be contained and that the cancer had not spread into her arteries. We hoped that the surgeon would be able to find and remove the entire tumor. We hoped that this nightmare could be over. We hoped for a miracle. Now back to the waiting room. The waiting room was full by this time of the day. There's a big monitor in the waiting room that gives you continuous information about the patient, whether they're waiting to go to surgery, if they're in recovery, or if they're still under the knife. And we tried to watch our kids play and visit, but that monitor was like a magnet. It constantly pulled our eyes to watch it. Nurses were pestered. A puzzle was started. Walks were taken, and the hours slowly crawled away. We decided it was about time to feed the children lunch when it happened. The surgeon walked into the waiting room. She took us into a room off the side of the waiting room, a room with a door. She shut the door behind us and she said, "The procedure was unable to remove the tumor from your mother's pancreas." The door shut. I was able to do some of the bypasses that will enable your mom's digestive system to function and will reduce the pain. I can still see that door shutting. On the outside, we're looking at 1.5 years, and that door shut on our last hope. The kids had to have lunch, so they were taken to eat. My dad wanted to be alone, so being the obedient son that I am, I stayed with him. We hugged, we wept. And then Dad said something I will never forget. He did not understand why this was happening, but he did know where to place his hope, and it wasn't in doctors. With tears running down his cheeks, he said, "All I can do is trust the Lord." In our family, we do not ask why very often. We know why, that we know we live in a world of sin, a world of death, a world that has said no to the Lord, a world where bad things happen to good people. We know these things are true, but even with the why known, the what still devastates us, doesn't it? The reality of the pain in this life, the reality of losing a child, the reality of the darkness of this place does not go away because we are Christian. To rephrase the old saying, we still bleed when we are cut, but we are different. Christians are different. We know that hope does not end with a procedure or with a surgeon or with a piece of paper. We do not grieve as the world grieves, and we do not hope as the world hopes. And I read this to my mom, and her answer still shocks me today. By this time, Mom was a skeleton with skin. And I read that, and her answer was this: "It's beautiful." She wasn't talking about her situation, obviously, right? She wasn't talking about my words in the paper. She was talking about Jesus. She was talking about 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. "And now, dear brothers and sisters, I want you to know what happens to a Christian when he dies, so that when it happens, you will not be full of sorrow, as those are who have no hope. For since we believe that Jesus died and came back to life again, we can also believe that when Jesus returns, God will bring back with him all the Christians who have died. So comfort and encourage each other with these words. And my mom, for those of you that didn't know her, she was not a peaceful person. She 4'10" and all mouth. That was how I described her. And she was the kind of gal that whenever we had a family gathering, she was the one bipping around like a pinball, making everybody stress out. And however, when this happened, she had one dark day. It was her and the game show channel, nothing else. No lights on, nobody could come in the room. Can't look at my wife. Anyway, sorry. She had that one dark day. Then after that, the peace that passes understanding overtook her. I mean, it was miraculous to watch Jesus in her life. She always said she died her desk, and she almost did. She worked up until 2 weeks before she passed, and Jesus blessed her. It was beautiful. And don't get me wrong, I have always loved and respected my mom. I mean, she's a very giving person. But the transformation that happened to her at that time was not, it had to be a miracle. There's no other answer. There's no other answer except the Lord. And this equation is true. And it's begun now through Jesus Christ. And the New Testament is full of this kind of language. It's begun now, but it's not done yet. And Mom knew that. That was part of her, it's beautiful, is that she knew the ending. She knew that this place where spouses leave, where health fails, where good things happen to bad people. My mom knew that someday heaven and earth would meet and that God's justice will be evident for all to see. Jesus will return with his people, and we will say, it's beautiful. So the equation is true. And right now in our church, there is a lot of hurt that I know about. I can't imagine the hurt I don't know about. And I'd like to read a little excerpt from this book called Ice Cream as a Clue to the Meaning of the Universe, written by Billy Sprague. And he starts with a poem by Emily Dickinson. And Emily's poem says, I reason earth is short, and anguish absolute, and many hurt, but what of that? I reason we could die, the best vitality cannot excel decay, but what of that? I reason that in heaven somehow it will be even, some new equation given, but what of that? And then Billy goes on to say, I'll tell you what of that, Emily. It hurts. That's what life hurts. And Billy goes on to say, and I think that's exactly what my favorite American poet was getting at. In the face of suffering, logic, reality, even the promises of heaven can all turn into Job's ineffectual friends, especially when doled out by well-meaning, quick-fix, Alice in Wonderland evangelical platitudes. The numbing cocoon of loss or pain cannot be brushed aside by glib references to Romans 8:28. All things work together for good. Or this too shall pass. Or the sardonic homespun quip, oh well, in 100 years we'll all be dead anyway. As true as those are, when pain prowls inside you like a panther, the shortest verse in the New Testament becomes the mightiest. Jesus wept. He knew life was brief. He knew anguish and death and loss were inescapable realities in this world. He knew he himself would excel decay, and he would beat death, and thereby bring a new equation into the cosmos by factoring in resurrection and eternal life for all who trust him. He knew all of this. And yet Jesus stood at the graveside of his dear friend Lazarus, knowing he would raise him from the grave in 10 minutes, and he wept. He wept bitterly because it hurt. So as you're facing people who are hurting and experiencing loss, but just hold them, you know? Just be there. And in their grief, when they hit a moment of grief sobriety, you know, remind them that Jesus wept, that he knows what they feel like. He knows hurt. He knows loss. He knows betrayal. He knows what it's like to be alone. He knows what it's like to experience loss, and but he also knows the reality. And the reality is that one day he will come back, and it's going to be beautiful.